Aloha and welcome to Thumbing Through Yesterday, the podcast where we take our favorite books off the shelf, dust them off, and remind ourselves why it is we love them so. My name's Tom Galley, and joining me today we have Tony Pasculi.
Thanks, Tom. Happy to be here.
What are we reading this time, or talking about this time?
We are talking about Liar's Poker, which is the first book by Michael Lewis, the thing that sort of kicked off his writing career. It is not his best book, which would be Moneyball, I think, or his most famous, which would be The Big Short. But both of those have been made into really excellent movies. And so I find I don't pick those up again. I just watch the movie instead. So sorry, Michael Lewis. But this one I do read every 10 years or so. I pick it up and I enjoy coming back to it. And it's a really seminal book. And it's about a seminal period in United States financial history. And to have sort of a bird's eye view of that is kind of interesting.
Now, this is a work of nonfiction.
Yes, this is nonfiction.
This is our second nonfiction. We did
Is
the one
it?
about the Doom.
Oh, yeah, we did the one about the Doom guys.
Yeah, I don't think I've picked a nonfiction yet.
No, you picked a graphic novel, but that's not, yeah. Nope, yeah,
Nope,
second
yeah.
nonfiction, yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Listeners, feel free to correct us if we're wrong.
All right, so
yeah.
I love this book, but I'm really curious what you thought of it.
Well, let's start with the obligatory. Why do you love this book?
I love it because I am fascinated by business and especially by narratives about business. I don't know why. One of my favorite genres of books to read are so-called business novels, which I have not subjected you to. But these are books which will explain some sort of business methodology in the form of a narrative. Books like The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, or Patrick Lencioni's business novels about how to be an effective CEO or manager, or The Phoenix Project about how to run DevOps in your local IT department, how to convert over to effective DevOps. And I don't know why, I just have a soft spot for these books. I love them. This is not that. This is nonfiction. This is about a guy really with no talent, experience, or business being involved in the bond market who gets a front row seat to the collapse of Salomon Brothers in the 80s and the junk market and a preview of everything that happened in 2008. So, yeah, it's incredible to me. And Lewis is just an incredible writer and storyteller also. You mentioned before we started that you didn't like the title of the book.
I just think it is mistitled.
I love the title of this book, and I think it is aptly titled. So tell me why you thought it was mistitled.
Well, very early in the book, right, we get a description of some people playing liar's poker.
Yes.
And then it might be mentioned once in passing throughout the body of the book. And then at the very end, there's a throwaway reference to the fact that liar's poker could be a not good thing. I just didn't see that they did a very good job of tying the king of liar's poker, who's, based on that opening chapter, who I thought was going to be one of the pivotal characters of the book, to anything. It was just kind of an attention getter to me, and then it didn't materialize as, it wasn't a through thread. It wasn't tied to anything, or I missed it. I could have easily missed it.
I don't think it's a through thread so much as he's establishing a metaphor, or just sort of glomming onto a metaphor that existed. And it's like going, there it is, and moving on. The idea that the bond market, so Michael Lewis I forget what his undergraduate major is, art history or something.
Yeah, art history.
Useless like that. And he finds that it is in fact useless and he can't get a job, and he goes off and he gets an econ degree, which he also finds is equally useless. But to his benefit, economics degrees are used as sort of a general IQ test at Wall Street firms. And he also happened to get invited to dinner with the Queen and sits next to someone and makes an impression on the wife of a bond trader at Salomon and gets a job that way.
Yep.
Through personal connections, personal regal connections.
I did love that as, Cinderella story in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Just dumb luck, I end up sitting next to this person. Dumb luck, I mention what I'm doing. Dumb luck, her husband is going to end up giving me a job.
Yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So he has he is not of this world. He gets drawn into it sort of by happenstance. So he's the perfect outsider to tell this story because he's got a pretty cynical view of it. and yet he plays a front row. He has a front row seat for most of what goes down. So liar poker, there's this episode early on, which is one of the standout anecdotes of this book for me. A lot of these traders will sit around and they'll play liar's poker, which is the game you play with dollar bills and you're comparing, it's a bluffing game. How many ones do you have? It's not just on your bill, it's on the collective group. How many can you bid? And it's less about having the perfect serial number and more about reading the room and having balls. Yeah, that's sort of the idea. And there are people who are very, very good at it and they consistently win. And there's a trader on the floor who's considered the ballsiest guy. And everybody looks up to him because no one cares about anything at this firm except who is willing to take on risk and who will produce for the firm. Mm-hmm. And their senior guy there, John Goodfriend, is not a trader. He's a manager. He's sort of escalated up and he makes a shit ton of money and he is well respected, but he's not a trader. So he doesn't have the same cachet as the top trader does. And so Goodfriend, to sort of establish his bona fides, challenges this guy to a game of liar's poker. And normally they play for stakes of like $20 or $100, something like that. He says, one hand, $1 million, no tears. And this is considered an incredible power move by him because as good as you are at liar's poker, there's a lot of variance. And over one hand, you're basically flipping a coin. And to flip a coin for $1 million, I mean, even this guy doesn't make enough money that he can take $1 million hit if it goes south on him. So how is he going to deal with this challenge? It's considered a brilliant move by Goodfriend to make this challenge because presumably the trader's going to have to back down and then Goodfriend will have established his dominance. Instead, the trader comes back and says, 10 million. Mm-hmm. And now Goodfriend has to back down because he can't take that variance. And it just shows that that's what it takes to play in this league, is to have that kind of balls and that kind of table read. Yeah. He played it perfectly. If he'd said $2 million, he might have been called on his bluff. Yeah. But he went to 10 million. And, Goodfriend couldn't play. Yeah. So I think what Lewis is setting up here is that the most successful guys, they're not, and I don't think anyone has this impression post 2008, but they're not the smartest guys in the room. That's a reference to Enron, actually. They're not the smartest guys in the room, They're not the brilliant people who are just like, of course, they're financial wizards. They've got their finger on the pulse of the market. They're, they're making lots of money, but they're geniuses. No, they're straight up gamblers with big balls, or big swinging dicks, actually, as the human piranha likes to say.
That's the what you hope to be elevated to.
Yes, yeah. You want to be a big swinging dick, is in the parlance of the firm. Yeah. So that's, to me, that story sort of sums up the attitude of all the people who are participating in this nonsense all the way through the book. Yeah.
This did reinforce in my mind every negative stereotype of money management and financial training in Wall Street that I have ever come across. There's nothing redemptive. Nobody in here is out for anyone's good. They're all simply out for bottom line.
Yeah.
And personal bottom line at that.
Yeah, and at the expense of the customer, which I consider vile. The behavior of these people, it's considered normal that as you're getting started, you will blow up a customer, meaning you will destroy their financial position so badly that they will lose their job or lose their career. Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody's going to blow up one or two.
Or small company will go under.
Yeah. And that's just considered part of the process.
And they turn you loose to keep doing this until you accidentally figure out a way to make money for the firm and not blow them up, blow up the customer. And then you'll get promoted. Then you're not a geek anymore. Right?
Yes. Yeah. But even then, if they've got bonds in the books that they need to move, they're going to lean on you to shove these bonds down your customer's throat to get them off the Salomon Brothers books. Yeah. And they do that a couple times too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just, it's ugly. It is so, so ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely makes me further question the money market in general.
So when I say I love this book, I don't say I endorse this behavior. I don't enjoy these people. These people are awful human beings.
Yes.
And one of the things I appreciate about it is that Michael Luce is an acute observer of human nature, and he delivers some incredible anecdotes, and he brings these people to life. And then he talks about how he couldn't personally do it, and he stepped away to become an author, and that's what he's done since. So I admire that also, although he did blow up a customer. And he did shove some bonds down a customer's throat, in his tenure there. Yeah. So
Initially unknowingly and then later knowingly.
Yep.
He even talks about the fact he figured out how much guilt he could live with, and he worked on that side of the line.
Yeah. It's wild. So the book for me, it's been a while since I've read this one, probably 10 or 15 years, I want to say. So I have really fond memories of this book, but I remember I remember the liar's poker anecdote. I remember the human piranha, who is the guy who's one of the traders that Michael Lewis looks up to. And when he makes some really incredible trade, the human piranha swings by and calls him a big swinging dick. And that's like better than a bonus, Yeah. So I remember all this stuff, and I had forgotten that there's about half of the book is a pretty dry recollection of stuff that he's not directly involved in that's just important to what was going on at the time.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of Econ 101 in this.
Yeah.
And not unlike Moby Dick, our last read, there was an awful lot of content wrapped around a relatively minor amount of actual plot.
Yes. Yeah. Now, the plot to me is interesting because it's directly relevant to our lives today, I think. I don't know anybody who wasn't affected by 2008. That was a rough time, and now we're going through some shit again with the tariff war, and we had SBF and the collapse of that. What was his firm? SBF is Sam Bankman-Fried,
right?
And FTX, I believe, was his trading company that nearly went bankrupt, and they took it away from him and sort of are now redistributing the assets. And around the same time, a major Silicon Valley Bank nearly went under, or did go under, I forget. Yeah, there's so much stuff was happening at the same time. It was crazy, And we have crypto, and we have all kinds of stuff, and it's all, it all goes back to this. Yeah, it actually goes farther back than this. But if you have a handle on this, you understand everything else that's going on. It's like, good Lord, everywhere in the world, there's one guy who gets a clever idea, like Michael Milken with junk bonds, and he's actually, Michael Milken, I think, did the industry a favor, because junk bonds, people needed to issue junk because they weren't AAA companies, but he still needed debt to do what they wanted to do, and he made them palatable, and he did good risk management on them, and he provided a service, and he made so much money as a result. And then other people start piling into junk bonds, and they're not as discriminating, and they're not as expert, and then junk bonds become a thing. And then by the time Salomon Brothers gets in on junk bonds, they're getting in on the junkiest junk there is.
They were Johnny-come-latelys to that one, yeah.
Yeah. And you see the same thing play out with the housing crisis in 2008. It's like in fact, they start talking about it here. They start a mortgage department, and they start bundling up mortgages. And how do we make these things palatable to an investor? Oh, well, we'll just... don't worry about the individual, just worry about these tranches, right?
Right.
And that's where we got screwed in 2008, is that people weren't paying attention to the individual, and they all collapsed, and the tranche structure didn't matter at all.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to read about that level of desperate motivation. You're this monstrous company, and for whatever reason, you have this thing, you have this debt, you have this risk, and you have it, and that's just the end of it. So what can you do to take that risk and turn it into an asset? What can you do to get somebody to not only take it away from you, but to pay you to take it away from you? And some of the stuff in there, my eyes glazed a little bit. And again, this is another thing. I power read this through last weekend. I think if I'd spread it out a little bit more and processed, I might have grasped a little bit more. But the idea, after the mortgage thing, after the junk bonds thing, somebody comes up with an idea to actually market risk itself. You're taking a complete intangible with no value whatsoever and making money off of it. I don't know if that's genius or evil or both.
Both? I want to say both. Yeah. It's a service. It's a thing. People, insurance. is a great example. Insurance is you are selling your risk to an insurance company. Yeah. And that's great. And he's like, I can't handle this much personal risk. And they're like, well, we're a company and we can take your risk and your risk and your risk and we'll bundle it all together in a bunch of, junk bonds. And we'll pay you out in the event that, your number comes up. And people, I know people hate insurance companies, but that is a truly valuable service. People would have a hard time living their lives without insurance, without homeowners insurance, without auto insurance, without medical insurance. You would have to dedicate so much more of your assets to smoothing out those uncertainties, rather than just paying a monthly fee. That's a lot easier way to do it, So I think insurance companies provide a valuable service. I think mortgage companies provide a valuable service. I think that as soon as we start leveraging risk, we start to get into real trouble. Our markets get leveraged because that's where the action is. That's where the money is. If you're leveraged in the right direction, instead of making 2x, you make 100x. That's very tempting. But if you guess wrong, you lose 100x, and there goes your 400-year-old trading firm in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, the stakes in this were all over the place.
Yes, they were.
And that, there was, you're talking about moving hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars through these companies, through these accounts.
Yeah.
And yet there's one point where his firm gets him to screw one of his best clients out of $600,000.
Yeah.
And this is pressure coming literally from the top of the firm, from 3 tiers of management above him. That's a night on the town. $600,000 to the volume of money we're talking through that these people handle.
Yeah.
Why would you be even aware of that?
This is the 80s. It's almost quaint how small these numbers are that they're throwing around, right? Yeah, you said night on the town. I assume is hyperbole, but it's literally true.
Not much hyperbole.
Yeah. There are people who will drop $200,000 on a night out in Las Vegas, just on bottle service. It's insane. I remember at the time, right around the time of Liar's Poker, there's another book I read, Barbarians of the Gate, which was about a leveraged buyout of Nabisco. And it was a $4 billion leveraged buyout. It was the largest leveraged buyout of its type at the time, $4 billion. And now it's like $4 billion. Are you kidding? There are 18-year-olds that are making $4 billion on their second startup, Yeah. Billionaires are a dime a dozen in Silicon Valley right now. You can't attract anybody's attention with $4 billion worth of anything. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You'd attract my attention.
Well, okay. Yes.
I still think, if anyone's listening, $4 billion is a nice amount of money. So if you've got $4 billion you're looking to drop on a night in Vegas, let me encourage you instead.
$4 billion as a personal bankroll is nice. $4 billion is the largest financial transaction in history is laughable.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, what did Elon Musk pay for Twitter? $44 billion, and that was privately funded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just reached him. He actually phoned up a few friends, but he's worth 10 times that, $400 billion personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So only 100x. He could buy RJR Nabisco without leveraging it 100 times over. Yeah.
So again, Elon, if you're listening and you've got $2 billion that you were thinking about spending on tofu or something.
Or a podcast. Take a podcast sponsor.
If you wanted to buy Thumbing Through Yesterday for $2 billion, we can talk. Have your people call my people.
Heck, 1 billion.
We'll negotiate.
Another thing that I found fascinating in this book, so he has to go through a training program. So he's got a master's degree in economics from the London School of Economics, but he has to go through a training program. And it's unclear what the point of the training program is because it doesn't seem to involve any actual training. And he characterizes the people who are in this training program as the front row people who are desperate sycophants, who are trying to be noticed and ask smart questions that they already know the answers to. Mm-hmm. And the Asian contingent, I forget whether they're Japanese or Korean.
Japanese.
But they're untouchable, so they just sleep through the entire thing. And the back row people who actively heckle and throw spitwads and stuff at the speakers. Yeah. And I'm just like, how does this function?
Yeah, I have a hard time swallowing that, right? I mean, not that there aren't back row people who don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But You don't throw spit wads at the people who are giving you the job and then show up the next day. I mean, that's just an invitation to not come back, or it should have been.
It should have been, and it wasn't. And I think that's sort of one of the points. Because these people, well, hopefully, they're in a quantum superposition. We don't know who they're going to end up being. Are they going to end up being traders? Or are they going to end up being, they end up getting sent to equities in Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they're doing is they're finding mentors and they're attaching themselves to higher ups in the firm. And when they do that, they have clout, they have status, and they have protection. It's sort of like jail, right? You ally yourself with the right people, and then no one can come at you. And the people who are being sent to the training room, for the most part, are either not important or they have the exact wrong kind of status. They have administrative hierarchical status, but they're not big swinging dicks. Yeah, they're not traders. They're not risk managers. They're not people who can punish the back row, and the back row knows it.
Now, this takes place over a really short period of time, actually.
Yeah, his entire career is like 2 years.
Yeah, he's 6 months in the training and then a couple of years of actual doing stuff. And reading through it, it seems like time should be passing, but then he'll remind you.
Yeah.
I've been in London for 6 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's only been, Bob there got out of the class before me, and he's been here 2 years. So,
yeah.
Oh, wait, but okay.
Yep. That's another one of the things that I found fascinating. There are times and places where the entire industry just seems to be really accelerated. So I happened to be at Microsoft in the 80s when it just seemed like everything was happening all at once, and Microsoft was the center of the universe. I mean, we had DOS and we were shipping Windows, and everybody else was shipping a windowing system in competition, and application software was just blowing up all over the place. Everybody had an application suite. Lotus had 1, 2, 3, and Borland had Quattro, and Microsoft had, we had Multiplan, but then we went with Excel. And it was just an exciting time. Networking was starting to take off. And this is actually kind of around the same time. But in the financial market, a lot of exciting shit was happening all at the same time. Like the mortgage department was invented around this time. Junk bonds were just coming into their heyday around this time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. There's a great book. I don't think you'll like it. I'm not recommending it to you. I'm recommending it to anybody who has read Liar's Poker and want to read more of the same, or not actually more of the same. It's not more of the same. If you want to read more of the same, read more Michael Lewis. In fact, start with The Big Short. But if you want to read more about this time period, there's a book called The Predator's Ball, which is about, and I love that title, which is about Michael Milken and his junk bond thing. The Predator's Ball was an annual get-together that the junk bond salesmen would have, and they were like, it's like imagine 400 Gordon Geckos in a room. That was the Predator's Ball. Yeah,
I love the name.
Yeah,
I'm just scrolling through my highlights here, and this just reinforces the time scale we're talking about. And he says the journey from useless geek to Michael took about 6 months. Mm-hmm. The journey from Michael to big swinging Dick happened almost immediately thereafter and was occasioned by a single sale.
Yeah.
And then they get into this where they've got these bonds they don't want anymore, and they're pressuring their sales force to get rid of them.
And he dumps them on his French customer. Yeah.
Yep. Unknowingly. At this point.
Yeah. Oh, right. He did one big sale. And he did it again a second time with a little bit of pre-planning.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's another great anecdote that I like from this, which I had forgotten about, which is that he and his, I can't remember his name, Dash Riprock?
Dash Riprock. It was easy for me to remember because they were a very popular band in north central Louisiana when I was at college age.
Oh, really? I didn't know it was a band name. I thought it was.
Well, I don't think it was I assume that there's a common origin here. Yeah. I don't think that the people on Wall Street that guy picked the name from a indie band that did the bar circuit in north central Louisiana.
Yeah.
Although they do make a reference to Louisiana and Edwin Edwards, who was governor when I was in college there.
All right.
Might still be in prison.
Yeah. So I think it's Dash Riprock. He and Dash Riprock put together a new kind of security. They figure out how to sell a thing I forget the details. It's just so financially whatever. And they bring in a senior guy who is not part of it, but they need him to get the sort of the official German stamp of approval so they can sell the thing. And so that guy comes in and he goes, yeah, okay, I will stamp it and I will take a third of all the whatever, the proceeds. And they go off and they make a shit ton of money. And then this guy that they bring in, the senior guy who has nothing to do with it except coming at the end and getting the German stamp on it, writes a memo, basically taking all the credit for the thing, sends the memo out unbeknownst to Michael and Dash, and then flies to New York immediately after closing and takes a victory lap to the offices to cement in everyone's mind that he is the sole author of this thing. And Michael Lewis is pissed, and Dash Riprock is sort of more phlegmatic about it, and he says, let it go. He's like, nope, he doesn't let it go. Instead, he does the same thing again, and this time doesn't bring this guy in, creates a new, I forget, some sort of warrant on something or other, which is a way of separating one piece of the risk from a different piece of the risk and selling it to different people and blah, blah, blah. And then when that is also a success, everyone turns to Victory Lap guy and says, hey, is this yours too? And Victory Lap guy doesn't know anything about it and is thus exposed as a fraud. And I love that. It's so Machiavellian. It's just delightful. And also the Schadenfreude of seeing this human excrement get punished that way. Yeah, so...
It was good comeuppance.
Yes.
Yeah, and the guy who stole the idea actually, he calls Michael into an office with one of the higher-ups and berates him for having done this on the sly, not only confirming to the higher-up that he didn't know what he was doing, but having this person witness his abuse of a subordinate. Guy doesn't get fired on the spot, but at bonus time, there's no bonus, and then he's not there next year.
Yeah.
So,
you can't. Oh, that's an interesting thing to talk about. Also, bonuses. Yeah. So Wall Street, at this firm in particular, but also in general, is all about bonuses. You might make $100,000 a year. This is back in the 80s. You might make $100,000 a year in salary and another $100,000 in bonuses. Yeah. And so it was really important that when you earned your bonus, you were seen to be doing stuff, but also your livelihood was in flux until December. You didn't know if you were going to make $100,000 or $200,000 for the year until you actually got that bonus check. And they could hold that over you. And people got fired right before bonus time or did not get a bonus. And of course, you can't stay if you're not going to get a bonus at a company. You're taking a 50% haircut on your salary. This is a plot point in. Did you ever read a novel, The Bonfire of the Vanities? By Tom? Yeah. Okay. Also this. Yeah. So. Yeah, more fictionalized version. Also delightful. Yeah. Terrible movie.
Yeah, avoid that. I had a thought and then I lost it. It was about salaries and bonuses. Oh, that was the deal. So Solomon Brothers had a band into which the bonuses had to fall, a pay range. And it was regulated for first years, second years, third years, whatever. I mean, the numbers were arbitrary, but they were also small. And their workers at some point wake up and start to realize, I am making not only millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for this company, and my bonus is going to be $60K. Yeah. Not that I would sneeze at a $60K, free check, but it's not fair, right?
Yeah.
And at some point they wake up and realize this, and they start deserting, and they start deserting in droves, and they start shutting down departments. And the Solomon Brothers, who created this mortgage market, more or less on their own, had the monopoly. Suddenly, all the people that know how it works are leaving for companies that are simply willing to offer them a little bit more salary and a more generous bonus.
Yeah.
And they're pissed. The leadership, Goodman, good friend, is pissed about it. He doesn't understand why anyone would leave, why they wouldn't be loyal to his firm, why they didn't understand what mattered was making money for the firm. So how can you be that stupid?
Yeah. I mean, Solomon Brothers was pretty stupid. I'm going to quibble with you on one thing. They weren't leaving for a little bit more money. They were in bands of like $200,000, maybe a $200,000 bonus. And then they hopped ship. They were getting offers of guaranteed $1 million a year.
Okay. They were leaving for a significant amount of money. But again, Solomon Brothers, for looking at the value of what these people were bringing in, really should have said, you know what, $2 million. we're good with it. We're sorry we treated you poorly. We will do better.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
really would have been a smart thing to do.
They should have anticipated that, especially with Louis Ranieri, who invented that whole department, right? They kind of squeezed him out. Yeah, I think if anyone's that important to your company, compensate them accordingly, and probably on some kind of percentage basis, yeah? But especially when they push back on you, and especially if you're on Wall Street and you expect loyalty, I don't know where you've been. Yeah, so...
Yeah. Well, loyalty was not something that Goodfriend himself embraced or embodied.
Yeah.
But yet he expected people who he was paying pennies on the millions to be loyal to him.
So now Salomon Brothers, they're not a company that's even around anymore. They sort of fell into this classic pattern of they were a very successful private firm. They went public and suddenly they were not their own masters anymore. They had to answer to investors. And then they began an aggressive expansion program at the worst possible time. So training classes went from like 60 people to 100 people to 200 people to I forget what the final training class was, but they got sold before the final training class even completed. And all those people just got dumped on the market. Yeah.
I love the description of the new London office.
Oh,
This monstrous edifice.
Yeah.
They built a new building. They didn't lease more space to grow. They built a new building. And they had an escalator that went up 10 floors, and then you had to walk down a marbled, mirrored hallway to get to the trading floor, which was the biggest indoor trading floor in the world. And at its height, it had like 20 people in it because they finished building it and the bottom fell out.
It's staggering. Okay, there's a Breaking Bad meme where someone says to Walter White, it's like, we had it all, and then you had to go and do too much and blow the whole thing up. But that's like a recurring theme in all of these companies, right?
Yeah, it happened with the guys, the software guys that did Doom, right? They got a little bit popular, and then they went and they rented this huge, ridiculous space and hired all these people, and they had no idea of how to run the business or to work the product.
Well, that was John Romero who split off and did his own thing. He started Ion Storm. He split with John Carmack, who stayed at id. id continued to be successful for a long time until John Carmack moved on. But Romero wanted to be a rock star, and he started Ion Storm, and he just was hosing money at this. But these guys did it, and they were making so much money. Enron, oh my God, those guys were making so much money. But then they were also taking shortcuts. Why? SBF, one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the world, and now he's in prison because instead of just contenting himself with being a billionaire, had to also commit financial fraud on an epic scale. Why?
The dragon sickness, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
I don't know. I tell myself that if I ever found myself in that situation, where there was just what I currently think of as an unfathomable fountain of money coming in, that I would grab as much as I could, pack it in my closets, and then call it quits.
Yeah.
And walk away. I don't know that I would. There's a lot of people out there who probably thought the same thing.
Yeah.
This guy wasn't one of them. This guy wanted money.
Oh, good friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Michael Lewis didn't. Michael Lewis, he said, this is too much. If they are paying me, an idiot who knows nothing, this much money, something is clearly wrong here. So I'm going to walk away before this whole thing explodes. And he barely made it out the door before they did explode.
Yeah. He had a bit of a conscience. I loved his nightmares. He had a nightmare about checking into a fancy hotel and there not being a fruit bowl or a bathrobe. And he's screaming at the bellhop's the wrong word, but screaming at the help. What do you mean there's no bathroom? And where's the fruit bowl? And then his wife wakes him up. She's like, you're having that nightmare again.
One of the fascinating things about wealth is people have different responses to it. And it sort of depends on your level of wealth, but also on your internal regulation. You start to get a lot of money. This is a theme of Bonfire of the Vanities. Okay. Instead of a big swinging dick, he is a master of the universe, self-called. Yeah. And when you are a master of the universe and when you are rich, you expect your life to be perfect. Life is never perfect. And the more you expect your life to be perfect, the more distressed you are by imperfections like a missing fruit bowl. And when you feel like you're entitled to that because you are extremely rich, this is where you get that behavior of extremely rich people treating poor people extremely badly. It's like, why do you not have any grace or noblesse oblige? It's because they're so stratified that they just want to be isolated from any kind of imperfection. Whereas the alternative is you could just say, I have the money to roll with imperfections. I should be the most chill dude in the world. And that happens for some people. Tom from MySpace, for example, sold MySpace for $30 million and now he's a photographer. Nobody knows. He just like goes on vacation and takes pictures. Yeah. It's like, go Tom. Yeah. Yeah. So
I once in my youth contemplated how much money would be enough money.
yeah.
And I came up with a number. And I think that number still holds true. That number is $32 million.
It's a big number.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
But at the time that would have been a big lottery winning. Now it's not even worth playing the lottery if it's only $30 million, But this is post lawyer's fee, post tax, post everything. But I figured if I could get $32 million into the bank, I'd spend about $2 million on a nice house.
Yeah.
Which in Honolulu is not nearly as nice as you listeners in the rest of the world are envisioning, trust me. And then if I could get the other $30 million at 1%, that would give me $300,000 a year to live on. I'm sure I could live on $300,000 a year. I'm sure of that because I'm living on far less than $300,000 a year, and I'm fairly happy.
Yeah.
So my idea of rich is $32 million. So Elon, if you're listening, that $2 billion bid is still on the table, but I'm willing to negotiate.
Yeah. You could get down to, under 100 million, it sounds like.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's higher than my number. But I always thought I could do better than 1%. Is why. I mean, high yield savings accounts right now are paying 4%, and that's our current interest rate. It's been lower in the past.
I was just expecting, forecasting the worst possible scenario, right? Before I'm actually shoving pennies into mason jars and burying them in the backyard. It's like, surely I'll always be able to get at least a 1% return on $30 million.
My number was always a post-tax income of $20,000 a month, which is $240,000 a year after taxes. So a little bit number, but your number is pre-tax. So depending on how you're earning that 1%, you might be looking at $150,000. Yeah, or are you talking about a post-tax 1%?
I'd never got that far in the fantasy. But the idea was I can live on $300,000 a year comfortably. I'm living now, on less than half of that comfortably.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that twice as much money I could still live comfortably.
I would hope you'd be at least twice as comfortable. Yeah.
Well, I think I would travel much more.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if a job were suddenly optional.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what the tax rate on simple interest is.
Well, I think it's classified as ordinary income. And in Hawaii, once you get above, I want to say 250 or 275,000, your tax bracket is about 50% with Hawaii state tax. So that's pretty punishing. Now, that's only on the last bracket. So you'd probably end up with about 200,000, I guess, when all said and done. But there are tax advantage ways to invest.
Well, yeah, but now I've got to pay somebody to manage my money so I don't pay taxes, and then they steal all my money, and then I end up on a reality TV show.
You do have to think about it.
Rich people lose their money.
Yeah.
You see this all the time. Lottery winners almost never keep the money for very long. I was like, dude, you won $200 million. What do you mean you're broke 5 years later? What did you do with two? You could have spent $1 million a year for the next 200 years.
Everybody takes the lump sum, and despite my age, I would be inclined to take the annuity because it doesn't go away. It just keeps rolling in. It's like, I blew it. I wasted it all on power boats and clove cigarettes. But next year, there's another. Two things that I would never buy, by the way.
Sitting out on the waves, smoking your clove cigarettes at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You get 2 puffs and all the ashes are in your face.
Yeah.
We might have drifted ever so slightly away.
A little bit. So I think Michael Lewis, when he quits in 1986, his total take-home pay for the year is $225,000, split between his salary and his bonus. And he considers that such an outrageous amount of money that he can't even accept it in good faith. That he has a conversation with his father, and he's just like ashamed to tell him how much money he's making. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's like, I got to quit for my sanity.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that might be everything I have on this book.
All right.
I enjoy the hell out of it, despite this sort of dry discussion of what's happening in the financial world at the time because there's enough anecdotes, especially when he sticks to what his own career is. And he's such a compelling writer, and the anecdotes are delightful. So even though they're anecdotes about horrible, horrible people.
Indeed.
With nicknames like the human piranha.
Charming at parties.
Yeah.
One thing completely unrelated to the content. Oleaginous.
Oleaginous.
They use the word oleaginous in this. They used the word oleaginous in our previous read, Moby Dick.
Yeah.
I thought, what are the odds that would have 2 consecutive books with the word oleaginous in them?
I believe they also used the word oleaginous in the Green... What was your fantasy novel that you liked?
Under the Green Star?
Under the Green Star, yes.
Huh.
Yeah.
I have to go back and check on that.
Yeah.
I just reading along, I was like, hey, I just saw that word in the last book. All right.
All right. So what's next? Something fiction, I assume.
Oh, let's see. Well, we'll stick with some classics here. Lord of the Flies.
Ooh, that's a great book.
William Golding?
Golding, yeah.
Golding. I did write that down correctly. I was about to say Goldberg. It's like, nope.
Nope.
Can't remember my name. Anyway, Lord of the Flies.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.